Welcome to A One Storyteller, where we bring you tales that inspire, uplift, and remind us of the power of resilience, compassion, and justice. Today, we delve into a powerful story that highlights how dignity can triumph over prejudice. This is a story about Dr. Michael Thompson, a black doctor who faces racism and injustice, only to reveal a shocking truth that changes lives forever. Let's dive in. The sun was setting over the bustling city, casting long shadows on the busy streets. Dr. Michael Thompson, a respected and accomplished physician, was making his way home after a long day at the hospital. He had just saved the life of a young boy who had been brought in with severe injuries from a car accident. It was another day in the life of a dedicated doctor. As Dr. Thompson walked through the neighborhood, he noticed a group of police officers approaching him. They were dressed in full uniform, their expressions stern and suspicious. "Dr. Thompson, we need to ask you a few questions," one of the officers said, stepping forward. Dr. Thompson raised an eyebrow, puzzled. "Sure, what's this about?" The officer's tone turned accusatory. "We've received a report that you're practicing medicine without a license. We have reason to believe you're a fraud." Dr. Thompson's eyes widened in shock. "What? That's absurd. I have my license and credentials. I've been practicing medicine for over a decade." The officers didn't seem convinced. "We'll see about that. You're under arrest." Before Dr. Thompson could protest further, he was handcuffed and taken into custody. He couldn't believe what was happening. How could they accuse him of being a fraud when he had saved countless lives? Dr. Thompson was taken to the police station, where he was placed in an interrogation room. The room was cold and sterile, with a single light hanging from the ceiling. The officers who had arrested him entered the room, their expressions cold and unyielding. "Dr. Thompson, we have evidence that you're not who you say you are," one of the officers said, slamming a folder on the table. Dr. Thompson looked at them, his eyes filled with confusion and frustration. "I don't know what you're talking about. I have all the necessary credentials. I've been verified by the medical board." The officers didn't seem to care. "We have witnesses who say you're a fraud, people who claim you've never been a real doctor." Dr. Thompson shook his head, trying to stay calm. "You're making a mistake. I can prove my innocence. Let me show you my credentials." The officers ignored his pleas, continuing their relentless questioning. Dr. Thompson felt a wave of despair wash over him. How could he prove his innocence when they were so determined to believe he was guilty? As the interrogation continued, Dr. Thompson's mind raced. He thought about all the lives he had saved, all the patients he had helped. He couldn't understand how they could accuse him of being a fraud. Then, one of the officers mentioned something that caught Dr. Thompson's attention. "We have witnesses who say you've never treated anyone in this city." Dr. Thompson's eyes widened. "That's not true. I've treated many patients here. In fact, I saved the lives of several police officers' parents." The officers exchanged glances, their expressions turning from suspicion to curiosity. "What do you mean?" Dr. Thompson took a deep breath, his mind racing. "A few years ago, there was a major accident involving a police officer's parents. I was the one who treated them. I saved their lives." The officers looked at each other, their expressions turning from suspicion to doubt. One of them pulled out a file and began to flip through it. "Let's check the records." As the officers checked the records, Dr. Thompson's heart pounded in his chest. He knew he had told the truth, but he couldn't be sure if they would believe him. After a few tense minutes, one of the officers looked up. His expression changed. "Dr. Thompson, it looks like you're telling the truth. The records show that you did treat several police officers' parents. You saved their lives." Dr. Thompson felt a wave of relief wash over him. "I told you, I'm a real doctor. I've dedicated my life to saving lives." The officers apologized, their expressions filled with remorse. "We're sorry, Dr. Thompson. We made a mistake. We should have believed you." Dr. Thompson nodded, his expression softening. "It's okay, I understand, but I hope you'll learn from this. Not everyone who looks different is a threat." The officers nodded, their expressions filled with newfound respect. "We will. Thank you for your understanding." As Dr. Thompson was released from custody, he couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. He had proven his innocence, but more importantly, he had shown the officers the importance of not judging a book by its cover. The officers who had arrested him made a public apology, acknowledging their mistake and expressing their gratitude for Dr. Thompson's compassion and understanding. They also pledged to undergo sensitivity training to prevent such incidents in the future. Dr. Thompson returned to his practice, his reputation restored. He continued to treat patients with the same dedication and compassion he had always shown. But he also became an advocate for justice, speaking out against prejudice and discrimination. Conclusion. Thank you for joining us on A1 Storyteller. We hope this story has inspired you to stand up for what's right and to find strength in compassion and justice. Remember, dignity can triumph over prejudice. Stay tuned for more powerful and uplifting tales. This story is just a starting point. You can expand on each chapter, add more details, and develop the characters further to reach the desired length.